The Oxygen Threat Commander, Alex Rodriguez, stood before the massive viewport of the colony ship New Horizons, watching the stars drift past like ancient memories. At 42, he had seen humanity's greatest achievements and darkest hours. His weathered face told stories of battles fought and colonies saved, but nothing had prepared him for what they were about to encounter in the Kepler 442 system. The New Horizons carried 30,000 souls seeking a new home among the stars. Families, scientists, engineers, and dreamers all united by the hope of building something better in the vast emptiness of space. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, with rotating sections that provided artificial gravity for the sleeping colonists. Dr. Maya Patel hurried onto the bridge, her dark hair disheveled from running through the ship's corridors. As chief medical officer, she had been monitoring the colonists' health during their 18-month journey. Her expertise in biochemistry had saved countless lives, but today her knowledge would be tested in ways she never imagined. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from the 4th planet," announced Lieutenant Jake Morrison from his communications station. The young officer's excitement was barely contained as he worked to decode the alien signals. "The patterns are definitely artificial, sir. We've made contact." Rodriguez felt his pulse quicken. After decades of searching, humanity had finally found proof that they were not alone in the universe. "Put it through the speakers, Lieutenant." The bridge filled with sounds unlike anything human ears had ever heard. It was a symphony of electronic pulses, mathematical harmonies, and crystalline resonances that seemed to come from beings who thought in frequencies rather than words. The beauty of it brought tears to Maya's eyes. Engineer Sam Kim looked up from the engineering console, excitement clear in their voice. "Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet. Whatever civilization is down there, they've achieved technology levels we can only dream of." Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. First contact protocols demanded careful, methodical communication. "Lieutenant Morrison, prepare our standard greeting package. Mathematics, chemistry, peaceful intentions. Let's see if we can establish a dialogue." Hours passed as the two species exchanged increasingly complex messages. The aliens, who called themselves the Vextai, seemed eager to share knowledge. They transmitted detailed information about their world, their technology, and their understanding of physics that was centuries ahead of human science. Dr. Patel worked alongside Morrison to decode the alien mathematics. "Commander, they're incredible. Look at these equations. They've solved problems in quantum mechanics that our best physicists are still struggling with." The breakthrough came when the Vextai requested detailed information about human biology and atmospheric requirements. It seemed like a natural exchange, two species sharing the basic facts of their existence. Rodriguez approved the transmission of human biological data, including atmospheric composition, metabolic processes, and respiratory requirements. The response was immediate and terrifying. The harmonious alien communication suddenly became harsh and discordant. Emergency frequencies filled with what could only be described as panic and outrage. Morrison worked frantically to translate the incoming flood of messages. "Commander," Morrison's voice was tight with concern. "They're sending warning signals to what appears to be their entire stellar network, something about a corrosive species and an oxygen plague." Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. "Get me a translation of their last transmission." The main screen flickered to life, showing the first visual contact with an alien species. The Vextai were beings of living crystal and metal, their bodies composed of intricate silicon-based structures that pulsed with internal energy. They moved with the fluid grace of beings perfectly adapted to their environment, but their crystalline faces now showed expressions of unmistakable fear and anger. The lead Vextai's voice came through the speakers, translated by their computer systems into stilted but understandable English. "Dangerous corrosive beings of the poison ship, you spread the destroyer gas that melts worlds and dissolves life itself. Your very breath is death to all pure silicon life." Dr. Patel's face went pale as understanding dawned. "Commander, they're talking about oxygen. To silicon-based life forms, oxygen is incredibly corrosive, It would be like living in a cloud of acid to them. The Vextai commander continued his declaration, each word dripping with disgust and fear. I am High Counselor Zixthan of the Vextai Purity Empire. Your species exhales the destroyer gas with every breath. Wherever you go, you contaminate pure worlds with your toxic presence. You are an abomination that threatens all civilized life in this galaxy. Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice calm despite the growing dread in his chest. High Counselor Zixthan, this is Commander Alex Rodriguez of the human vessel New Horizons. There has been a serious misunderstanding. Oxygen is not harmful to humans. We require it to live. We had no intention of threatening your people. The crystalline being's response was filled with what sounded like bitter laughter, lies, and deception. Corrosive one. We have analyzed your biological data. Oxygen destroys silicon bonds, dissolves crystal matrices, and turns pure metal into rust and decay. Your very existence is an act of war against all proper life. Sam Kim's console lit up with proximity alarms. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching our position. Hundreds of ships, all larger than ours. The tactical display showed the approaching Vextai fleet, a terrifying armada of crystalline warships that looked more like floating cities than military vessels. Each ship pulsed with the same internal energy as their creators, and their weapons systems showed power levels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. High Counselor Zixthan's image filled the screen, his crystalline features rigid with determination. The Vextai Empire has reached a decision. All oxygen breathing. Vermin must be cleansed from this sector of space. We have prepared special weapons designed specifically for your kind. Oxygen bombs that will flood your ships with concentrated doses of your own destroyer gas. The irony was not lost on Dr. Patel. They're going to try to kill us with the very thing we need to survive. You have 6 of your time periods to evacuate this system, Zixthan continued. Any vessels remaining after this deadline will face our ultimate purification weapon. The oxygen bombs will flood your ships with destroyer gas concentrations of 95% purity. Your own medical data confirms that such exposure will cause immediate respiratory failure and death. Rodriguez looked around at his bridge crew. These were good people who had signed up for exploration and hope, not war. Morrison was barely 25, fresh from the academy with dreams of peaceful contact with alien civilizations. Dr. Patel had left behind a promising research career to help establish new colonies. Sam Kim had volunteered to spend decades in space to help secure humanity's future among the stars. Options? Rodriguez asked quietly. Sam Kim shook their head grimly. We're outnumbered 500 to 1, Commander. The New Horizons is a colony ship. We have minimal defensive capabilities. Could we outrun them? Asked Morrison hopefully. Not a chance, Kim replied. Their ships are faster, and they've already formed a complete blockade around us. We're trapped. Dr. Patel was running calculations on her medical console, her brow furrowed in concentration. Commander, I'm trying to model what their oxygen bombs might actually do to human physiology at the concentrations they're describing. And? Rodriguez prompted. It's complicated. Humans can survive in pure oxygen environments for limited periods, but at the concentrations they're talking about, over extended time. She paused, studying the data. The effects would be significant but not necessarily fatal in the way they expect. The communication channel crackled to life once. More oxygen-breathing contaminants, your time begins now. Use these remaining periods to flee rather than fight. Our weapons will flood your ship with the very gas you claim to need. Your colony will suffocate in concentrated destroyer gas until every corrosive organism is eliminated. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez made a decision that would change the course of human history. Send a priority message to Earth Command and all human colonies in our network. Warn them about the Vextai and their intentions, but also transmit all our data about their technology and biology. What are your orders, Commander? Asked Morrison. Rodriguez looked out at the Vextai fleet, hundreds of beautiful crystalline ships preparing for what they believed would be genocide. We're going to find out exactly what happens when silicon-based aliens try to kill carbon-based humans with pure oxygen. The countdown had begun. In 6 hours, the New Horizons would face an attack unlike anything in human experience. As the EI crew prepared for the worst, none of them could have imagined that they were about to discover something extraordinary about human adaptability that would shock the entire galaxy. The shocking discovery. The 6 hours passed like a slow death march. Throughout the New Horizons, 30,000 colonists went about their daily routines, unaware that their ship was surrounded by hostile aliens preparing to deploy what they believed was a doomsday weapon. Commander Rodriguez had made the difficult decision not to wake the sleeping colonists from their stasis pods, hoping against hope that Dr. Patel's optimistic projections about oxygen tolerance might prove correct. Dr. Patel worked feverishly in the medical bay, running simulations and preparing for every possible scenario. Her team of medical officers had converted 3 entire sections of the ship into emergency treatment facilities, ready to handle mass casualties. But the more she studied the projected oxygen concentrations, the more she began to suspect that the Vextai might be in for a surprise. "Commander," she called over the intercom, "I need to show you something. The historical data from Earth's early atmospheric development is fascinating." Rodriguez joined her in the medical bay, where holographic displays showed complex molecular structures and evolutionary timelines. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "Human evolutionary history, specifically our respiratory adaptations," Patel explained, pointing to genetic markers on the display. Early humans lived in environments with much higher oxygen concentrations than we experience today. Our bodies retain dormant genetic switches that can be activated under extreme oxygen exposure. Dormant switches? Think of them as evolutionary backup systems. When exposed to high oxygen concentrations, human cells can temporarily increase their metabolic efficiency by up to 300%. Enhanced muscle performance, increased brain function, accelerated healing. It's like temporary superhuman abilities. Sam Kim's voice crackled over the intercom. "Commander, the Vextai fleet is moving into final attack position." "I'm reading. Massive energy buildups across all their ships." Rodriguez squeezed Patel's shoulder. "Doctor, I hope you're right about this, because in about 30 seconds we're going to find out." The attack began with a beauty that was almost hypnotic. The Vextai ships released streams of pure oxygen that looked like silver ribbons flowing through space. The gas was contained in energy fields that guided it directly toward the New Horizons, enveloping the massive colony ship in a shimmering cocoon of what the aliens believed was death incarnate. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship as the oxygen concentration began climbing rapidly. 50%, 60%, 70%. Far beyond anything humans normally experienced. Rodriguez felt his heart racing, not from fear, but from the sudden surge of energy flowing through his body. "Report," he called out, his voice stronger and clearer than it had been in years. "Oxygen concentration at 85% and rising," Sam Kim reported, but their voice was filled with wonder rather than panic. "Commander, I feel incredible. It's like every cell in my body just woke up." Dr. Patel was monitoring the crew's vital signs with growing amazement. "Commander, this is extraordinary. Heart rates are elevated but stable. Brain activity is increased by 40% and muscular efficiency is off the charts. We're not dying. We're evolving." Lieutenant Morrison stood up from his communications console, and Rodriguez was shocked to see the young officer's movements were fluid and precise beyond anything human. "Sir, I can process the Vextai transmissions without the computer translation. I can literally understand their crystalline frequency patterns." Throughout the ship, similar transformations were occurring. Engineers who had struggled with complex repairs suddenly found solutions coming to them with crystal clarity. Medical staff discovered they could diagnose conditions with unprecedented accuracy. The cleaning crew moved through their tasks with incredible efficiency and grace. "Oxygen concentration at 95%, Kim reported. "Commander, at this level, the Vextai expected us to be dead within minutes." Instead, the New Horizons, had become something more than a colony ship. It had become a vessel crewed by temporarily enhanced humans who could think faster, move quicker, and solve problems with superhuman capability. Rodriguez made a decision that would be talked about in diplomatic circles for centuries. Lieutenant Morrison, open a channel to the Vextai fleet. High Counselor Zixthon appeared on screen, his crystalline features showing confusion and growing concern. Behind him, other Vextai officials clustered around monitoring stations, their electromagnetic communications creating a symphony of worried frequencies. High Counselor, Rodriguez began, his voice carrying a confidence and clarity that seemed to resonate through subspace itself. Thank you for the gift of pure oxygen. We've never felt better. The alien's response was a sound like shattering crystal. Impossible. Our sensors show your ship is flooded with destroyer gas at lethal concentrations. You should be dissolved into component atoms by now. Dr. Patel stepped into view, her enhanced mental capabilities allowing her to formulate complex biochemical explanations in real time. High Counselor, what you call destroyer gas is actually a performance enhancer for carbon-based life. We don't just survive in high oxygen environments, we thrive in them. To demonstrate, Sam Kim performed a feat of engineering that should have taken hours but was completed in minutes. They rerouted power through secondary systems, boosted shield generators, and activated dormant weapon systems that had been offline for months. The New Horizons transformed from a helpless colony ship into a fully operational vessel that could defend itself. Observe, Rodriguez said calmly, as the ship's newly activated defensive systems created a spectacular light show. Energy shields that pulsed with power, weapons that had been offline for the entire journey now humming with readiness, and repair drones that moved with impossible precision to fix minor damage throughout the vessel. The Vextai fleet's response was immediate and telling. Ships that had been in aggressive attack formations suddenly began retreating to safe distances. The electromagnetic chatter between their vessels increased to a frantic pace as they tried to understand what they were witnessing. This is not possible, Zixthon transmitted, his voice filled with what could only be described as awe. Destroyer gas cannot enhance life. It only brings dissolution and death. Morrison, his enhanced linguistic abilities allowing him to understand the subtle frequencies in the alien communication, replied with perfect pronunciation in the Vextai language. His words created harmonics that resonated with their crystalline biology, speaking to them in their own fundamental frequency. The reaction from the alien fleet was instantaneous. Ships that had been preparing for a second wave of oxygen attacks suddenly powered down their weapons. The electromagnetic communications between vessels shifted from aggressive military frequencies to something that sounded almost like wonder. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her enhanced mental capacity allowing her to grasp concepts that would have taken weeks of study under normal conditions. High Counselor, I believe I understand the source of our conflict. Your species evolved in a silicon-based environment where oxygen is indeed destructive. Our species evolved in a carbon-based environment where oxygen is essential for life. What is poison to you is literally the breath of life to us. More than that, Rodriguez added, feeling the enhanced oxygen continuing to improve his cognitive abilities. You've accidentally given us a gift. This oxygen concentration has activated dormant genetic capabilities in humans. We're operating at levels we never thought possible. Sam Kim's voice came over the intercom, filled with excitement. Commander, I've been analyzing their ship designs while we've been talking. With our enhanced mental capabilities, I think I understand their crystalline technology. We might be able to help them solve some engineering problems they've been struggling with for centuries. The offer of cooperation rather than conflict seemed to shatter the Vextai's preconceptions about oxygen-breathing species. Zixthon's form began pulsing with different colors, patterns that Morrison's enhanced linguistic abilities recognized as expressions of curiosity and hope. You would help us? The High Counselor asked, his electronic voice carrying notes of wonder. Even after we tried to eliminate your species? That's what humans do, Rodriguez replied simply. We adapt, we survive, and we help others do the same. What followed was the most remarkable first contact in galactic history. Over the next several hours, as the enhanced humans worked with the Vextai, they solved engineering problems that had puzzled the crystalline beings for millennia. The humans' enhanced cognitive abilities, combined with their different perspective on physics and chemistry, provided solutions that seemed impossible to the silicon-based aliens. In return, the Vextai shared their advanced understanding of crystalline computing, energy manipulation, and subspace communication. The exchange was so productive that both species learned more in a single day than they had in decades of previous research. As the oxygen levels gradually returned to normal and the human enhancements faded, something permanent had changed. The two species had discovered that their differences were not barriers, but opportunities for mutual growth and understanding. "High Counselor," Rodriguez said as the effects of the enhanced oxygen began to wear off, "I believe we've both learned something important today. What one species considers a deadly weapon, another might consider a gift. Perhaps the galaxy would be better served by cooperation rather than fear." Zixthan's response created harmonics that resonated throughout both fleets. "Commander Rodriguez, the Vextai Empire would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. Your species has shown us that diversity of life is not a threat to be eliminated, but a strength to be celebrated." The news of humanity's survival and enhancement under pure oxygen conditions spread throughout the galaxy faster than the speed of light. Within weeks, every major civilization had heard the story of the species that turned their enemy's ultimate weapon into their greatest advantage. The New Horizons continued its journey to establish a new colony, but now it traveled with a Vextai escort and a cargo hold full of crystalline technology. More importantly, it carried the seeds of a new era in galactic relations, one where differences were seen as opportunities rather than threats. Dr. Patel published her research on human oxygen enhancement, leading to the development of controlled oxygen therapy that could temporarily boost human performance in emergency situations. Sam Kim worked with Vextai engineers to design hybrid technologies that combined the best of both species' innovations. But perhaps the most important outcome was the simple fact that two species had looked past their differences and found common ground. The galaxy was a vast and varied place, filled with countless forms of life, each adapted to their own unique environments. What seemed like an insurmountable difference had become the foundation for unprecedented cooperation. As the New Horizons disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward its new home among the stars, the story of the oxygen bomb spread throughout the galaxy. It became a legend that would be told for generations, the story of how humans survived, what should have killed them, and how their survival taught the galaxy that diversity was not something to fear, but something to celebrate. The galaxy would never be the same again. The end.